back, and I don't have time for this. My bedtime is in like 9 minutes, or at least my kids is, and that means it's my bedtime too. I am the Lilith reincarnated. To catch a full fucking intro, go catch another video. I don't have time for this, but I gotta clarify this. It just came to me. I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this cool AI made video of the archangels. And all of them are in the shape of a man without a shirt, with wings. And I said it in the comments, but it must be said. Divine beings do not take the form of humans. Humans just put their face on divine beings. Lilith was created as a, you know what I mean, as the female, the archetype of a female. Other than myself, no, angels don't look like humans. They've never been described to be such things. And Jesus wasn't white. And that's why aliens freak you out. Everything freaks you out because it takes a different form. It's not a familiar form. It's not something that, you know what I mean, that you recognize. So your mind tries to form it, put a form on it. Like God. You guys always try to say God. You have this idea. You have somewhere in your brain, you know what God looks like and who is your God. God doesn't have a form. He's nothing more than the brightest light, brighter than the sun could ever be. That's just a planet. It's a fragment of his light. When we stand before God, it's the brightest light of light. Do you know what I mean? That's all I can say about that. And as far as the angels, your mind creates this image of what it's seen on TV and what it's been told an angel is. Again, everything about your life is you've been told what things are, and you take it and you paint this picture and this reality based on what you've been told. And I'm telling you right now, angels don't look like humans. Humans were created in an angelic form, so there's similarities to it, but what human had wings? How can you biologically put that into a human body? What was the size of this angel? And that's what they try to explain to you. You know what I mean? As far as Metatron, and I'm going to put it on this picture, they see Metatron in the normal human form. But Metatron is described to have his feet on the earth and his head in the fucking cosmos. What man was created in such a way? You know what I mean? And that's what it is when they tried to describe darkness. Their brain couldn't give it a form. It had many faces. It had eyes. It had the tail of this. It had wings like a this. It had the body of a, you know what I mean? It had the face of a lion, the tail of a fucking, what am I saying? A crocodile, and then it had the wings of a bat. They couldn't really. They tried to give it a form, and that's exactly what Revelations paints. It tries to give it a form. They couldn't fathom. They tried to put it together, and like, what did you see? It was dark. I saw like a tail. I saw some wings. I saw some red eyes. And they put this together, and they're like, is this what you saw? Yeah, I guess. And that's what it is where you know what I mean? You're forced to believe something that's put in front of your face. And that's how they can get these wrong, you know what I mean, profile pictures and descriptions. A whole fucking, what do they call that? What do they call it on the internet where you catfished? You know what I mean? In the sense of, no. But you can. And that's what I said is Archangel can take any form. Archangel Michael can take any form in your brain. He can be, you know what I mean, an angel of Asian descent for the Asian people. He can be a female. They always teach you that they're androgynous down to, you know what I mean, Gabriel, Uriel, all of them. They can take whatever form that appeals to you. And that's where I can show you that all these spirit guides come in this form or the other, but it's the same messenger, you know what I mean? It's just a different expression. It's all God in a different messenger. And they take different forms that will relate to me. You know what I mean? If she sees this form, she won't act up. But if we put this form, she's going to act up. And that's that triggers, and that's that read and relate, and how God has many faces and speaks many tongues. You know what I mean? So going back to the angelical beings, there's those of the dead, the spirit world, those that walk the life, that you've seen them in a human form. When you let go of that human form, you can see their spirit in everyone. You can see they're alive in everyone when you release the form of things, right? So, like, you're always trying to make it fit into something. And something as simplistic as they don't look like men. But if you were to put them in a man form, I guess this is what they would look like. But they're not a man until they took form of man. I'm not. I'm not. Like, the body, sure, I have okay, that's this body, but do you know how many times I've been in a body? How many different bodies I have? The body doesn't define me. It's just, as it said in the cards earlier, it's just the vehicle that I rode in on. A way to express myself through a different body. I have a different vehicle. They all run the same. You know what I mean? This one has some different fucking quirks to it. This one didn't come with eyebrows. I mean, it did in the beginning. Wear and tear. You know, funny things like that. But I'm not the form. I take all forms. And that's what it meant about the shape-shifting of the goddess. You could recognize the goddess in all things because, in essence, you only studied one goddess, but you could see that she had many facets and was in all things. God was solid. You know, goddess is fluid. You know what I mean? Your feelings are fluid. God is solid. You know what I mean? He's a solid form. You know what I mean? You know what he's made of, but that's what I teach you is he's not. He's not this solid construct that you've made him to be, where he's this, that, and the other. And that's what I'm trying to teach you too, is as much as I'm teaching you about the gods and goddesses, you know, all the gods and goddesses, which was a reflection of God put into the human form for the humans to be led by. In essence, humans only, you know what I mean, they only praise something of similar, you know what I mean? Like, they're only going to praise people of their own people, you know what I mean? Like, your leaders had to be chosen, you know, they had to resonate with you. They had to be a people like you. They had to choose a leader of, you know what I mean, for the people of all nations. There was always a person that had a connection to God that could, you know, guide them spiritually. And that's what I mean. Without Jesus, it doesn't mean that they didn't have a spiritual connection. You know what I mean? I'm trying to teach you Jesus's way, which is this ultimate kindness, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. That's what we're working on here. Not everybody turning to Christianity. We find many flaws and dictated, you know what I mean, persecution through all religions, but most of all through Christianity. This isn't about the conversion of Christianity. If anything, it's converting Christianity to be more Christ-like. But in essence, it's just the message of Christ that he himself spoke that got diluted over the time. And rekindling that fire and letting that motherfucker burn all these lies down. The truth in that message alone. That's all, bro. Why can't we just do that? Because of what he said. We walk in the flesh, dude. We walk in these laws, the constructs of our mind, this, that, and the other. I don't have time for this. I teach you this all the time, and it's bedtime. Before you go to sleep, it's like they're whatever you want them to be. But just because you see them that way doesn't mean that that's the way that everyone else sees them. And that's the cool thing about it, is because people that have never known Jesus or seen a picture of Jesus or ever heard about Jesus can recognize Jesus in all things. You know what I mean? That's what I teach you about all these spirits, about Kobe, about Pac, about, you know what I mean? Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, the man that walked this earth that you guys know of, however you viewed this man, the spirit inside of that man, I know to be the spirit of Archangel Michael, the spirit of love. God's strongest weapon is love, and we're trying to harness that weapon through Jesus Christ, his teachings. It's to just spread love and be a whole weapon of love. What does that call? Forgiveness, understanding, compassion, and kindness. That's how we do it. But it's as simple as you write it down. It's not that simple. When we're going against everything that we know, to not be that simple, not be so simple-minded. not be so trusting, not be so forgiving, not be so understanding, to stand up tall. As the Lilith, I'm asking you to do that. Use that fire, that rebellion, in the name of your freedom, your spiritual freedom. You know what I mean? I was created to rebel, always to rebel, but now we're rebelling, spiritually, not in our flesh, against that, but against our own principalities, virtues, and powers that we've put upon ourselves, the programming. So going back to this all, is like, don't tell a person who their God is. Learn to accept that they have God, and that's good enough. Don't tell them how to praise God, and their God isn't good enough, and they're not, and that's just kind of a whole general thing about life, but especially when it comes to the angels. Where do they speak of the angels? And how many spiritual teachings do they know of the angels? When we start teaching people about angels and start telling them they're a bunch of white guys, how can they identify with something like that when they are not a bunch of white guys? How can women who have problems with men understand that men are, shining lights of men are coming to save them, when they believe that their God is a woman because man has shown them no love? In essence, it's like, we don't need to show them. We can let them leave it to their imagination, and just make sure that the message is there. I'm not here to distort your beliefs. I'm here to expand them and leave room for other people's too. Do you know your archangels? And do they have a physical form that you put on it and that you try to put on other people, your belief of what they look like and how they act and what they do in your life? Or you don't know such things. You don't know your angels and your archangels, your spirit guides, and your ancestors. I'm going to teach you all of that. But don't think that you know everything, you know what I mean? Because even though you're hearing it, your mind is going to create a vision that's comfortable for you and your mind. Other people are going to create a vision in their mind. And in most religions, they weren't given angels. They were given full-on gods. You went to a god to have your prayers answered. You went to a god for this. You went to a god for that. We go to our angels because that's how we were taught to. Or you go directly to Jesus. And to some people, Jesus is God. As he said, he was, the Son and the way to God, in the teachings. It's all how, I just want to open it up and close it up too. It's like, he's not what the divine is not limited to what you think it is. And that's, if you can't even incorporate the idea that an angel isn't in a human form, then how are you ever going to believe in fairies, gnomes, dragons, and fucking unicorns? Not possible, huh? Then how is a whole religion based on it, and they have the stories of them fighting such creatures? How is David and Goliath real, but these creatures aren't? Come on now. Open up your mind. Give it some room to breathe. Let it be a child and let it accept the possibilities of what was told in the past and what you won't let live in the future. You tell people a whole fucking lie about some guy named Santa Claus. It's a whole ass fucking lie. There's no real to it. You do it just because other people do it, because you don't want your kids to be left out. You want them to believe in a lie. You'd rather them believe in something than a lie. That's not true. And you lied to them. I let them believe that it was God. I led them to believe that it was God doing such things. But I never told them the lie. That's it too. An Easter bunny, the tooth fairy. These are full lies. You create lies in your children's head and then they don't believe you. Why don't you create truths and show them the real stories that can back up these truths? Where the fuck is the tooth fairy? Where's that story? Actually, it's a very dark story of what they would do with your teeth, and I told you that's a bad thing. Laters, haters.